Walt Disney created and nurtured and discovered many, many stars during his long career, but the lady who's with us today can truly be called Walt's first star, and that is Virginia Davis. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Now, I came to that conclusion one day when I interviewed you for
Yes.
Entertainment Tonight some years ago, and it hadn't occurred to me before. But in fact, since you were in the first cartoons that Walt produced that had a live actor, you're it.
Well, I know I remember thinking, gosh, I guess I was.
One of the most amazing things I think about your history and your career, your days with Walt, is that it's so wonderfully documented in those letters that you saved from
yes.
Walt to your mother and back again. Tell us a little about that.
Well, they were handwritten, first of all, and many places in the letters there would be a little error, and it would be crossed off. It wasn't typed. He didn't have a typewriter at that time. Mm-hmm. And oh, what a salesman he was, really. I can't remember some of the phrases I think were, she'll go on to bigger and better things, and you know, he was just piling it on. That's all I can say. Well, but Mother fell for it, but she liked him because she sensed a sincerity in his mind, and I knew him and had the pleasure of meeting him. And of course, they shot the thing in the pilot film in my mother's house, so she really liked him very much. She saw great things in Walt.
Well, let's start at the beginning then.
Okay.
How did Walt discover you, if that's the word? How did he come to hire you for this early film?
Well, you know, he was working on ads, and those ads that would be put into the theaters between the big middle screen, and he would like that, and then he'd check them out to see if they were as good as he thought they would be. Well, I happened to be doing some ads that were, as a little girl, from about 3 years on up to about 4.5. And he saw these, and he got this idea. Whether he had the idea first or whether he thought of it after seeing me, I don't know. But he had the idea of having Alice in a cartoon situation. So he contacted my mother, and he was able to do that through the company that he was in, and then he later on went to Laugh-O-Grams, his own company. But he was able to get that information. And then he contacted my mother.
So Walt contacted your mother and said he had in mind a film in which you would appear.
Yes, that was the basis of it. And I think because he was so short on money, but you know, long on inspiration and everything else and salesmanship, I think he talked my mother into letting him do it in my house. And most of the things were shot in my house, except for the things that were done at the film that was done, the film Laugh-O-Grams. Mm-hmm. So I can see how my house looked, I guess, even now, but that was not my mother in that picture. A lot of people think in that pilot that he did that was my mother. That was my aunt, my mother's sister. Mm-hmm.
Now, looking back, because we have a chronology and we can
yes,
trace this,
okay, let's do
how
that.
much time was there between that pilot film and the starting of the series?
The letter was written, I think, early October, if I remember correctly. But the first shooting of the film was, I think, October 16th or something like that, which has since become the beginning of the studios. So I have that to think about, too.
And that was then the Disney Brothers studio, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, it was. And that was that little studio in the back of a real estate office. Yes, I remember that, too. They were so proud of the signs. But the first actual film was the Alice's Day at Sea. And of course, that film, we came from Missouri. I had never seen the ocean. And all of a sudden, there was that sand and all the ocean, and then my hair would come out of curl. But I loved it. I just loved it.
Now, if I ask you to give us descriptive adjectives from your child's mind of how you would describe Walt as a person, how he dealt with you, what kind of words would you tell me?
He was very, very sweet. He didn't barge at you in any way or barge into you and tell you to do something. Do it quick. No, he was very gentle, a very gentle man, and you could tell that he liked children. And of course, children all liked him. And of course, I thought, like any uncle that you have, Uncle Walt, gosh, and he'd tell all these stories. And he'd always look down at me in a very benevolent way. But it was serious now. And of course, it had to be, because if I didn't do what he said to do, there was no film or money for another retake. There was just one take, and that was it.
Looking back at the films today, when you see them, what do you think? What goes through your mind as you watch yourself as a little girl?
Oh, I'm very critical of myself. I'll probably be very critical of this interview also, but nevertheless, they were okay. And I was surprised. They moved quite quickly, of course. And they were only about, 10 minutes long? But I enjoyed them. I enjoyed looking at them, and my grandchildren have seen them, the ones that have seen it, laugh at them. So I guess they still get across.
Well, there was a wonderful evening at the El Capitan Theater on Hollywood Boulevard just a couple of years ago, where I got to interview you on stage, and then we showed Alice's Wild West show on an enormous screen with a live organist playing the music score, and it was a smash. It's still a funny film. It's still very entertaining.
Well, that was, as I say, that was my very, very favorite one. And we had other children in it, too, as well as the cartoon sequence, which made it great, I think. But I just loved that little one. That's my very favorite. And I think I like the Alice's Day at Sea, too. But the others are sort of blurred in my memory.
What were you paid as a little girl?
Oh, I started off at $100 a month, which of course sounds like nothing today, but $100 a month was good in 1923.
That was awfully good, sure.
And it was to rise accordingly in sections, up to $200 by the end of the year. So I know Dave Smith always laughs about that. See, you were the highest paid of all. And he shows me this little contract. So that was my range. I got up to 200. When the option was to be picked up, I was to go to $250. And the option was not picked up under those terms, and they went for other terms, which I guess you know anyway, but I can tell you, were that I would be paid $25 a day when they photographed me. Well, that meant that if they wanted to do 2 stories in one day, they could do it in the one day, and it would mean that maybe I would work 18 days for the year, and it was going to be at $25 a day. So my mother didn't think that was a very good option of any kind, and she tried to talk them into doing something else, and they wouldn't. And so I guess it was the lack of money, not from Walt's point of view, I'm sure. It was from, shall we say, Mr. Mintz's point of view. And so then we separated, and a new little girl came in. Margie Gay, I think it was.
Some things never change in show business, right?
That's right, that's right.
Negotiating and contracts, that's the same then as now.
Well, so many things are the same, I think. So anyway, after that, I went to school, graduated from school, and then that's when, after I graduated, I contacted Walt again.
Tell us about that.
And I wrote him a little letter, and he wrote me back on his nice new stationery, not the plain stationery that he had before. Very, very impressive stationery. And he said, among the things that he said was, "How nice of you to contact me, and so nice of you to remember me." And I thought that was the greatest, to think that Walt would say that to me, because he'd really been making a hits at that time. But that was before Snow White. Well, while I was there, he had me audition for Snow White.
For the voice?
For the speaking voice. He tried for the singing, but I'm not a singer. Carry a tune? Oh, yes. But not a singer. And he had me audition for the speaking voice, which I can do. Want me to do it?
Sure.
"And a shoe! This'll never, never do." And that's just one part I remember from it, from the audition. And so he thought that was fine. Or I guess what he would say, "Well, that'll do." That's what his real phrase was. But then I was supposed to do the live action also. And he even went down to Western Costumers with me and looked at the costume. And I remember him picking up a sleeve, picking it up to see if the sleeves were right. and I was all set to do it. But then, unfortunately, we had the same contract problems that we had when the Alice comedies were over. I would be paid for my live action and voice when recording or photographed. It would be about 3 years in the running. And at that time, I couldn't tell anybody that I was doing it because you kept everything secret. And I couldn't work anyplace else. And that would have been about 3 years out of my life. So again, my mother said no. So I didn't get to do the voice for the live action. I'm sorry I didn't, because I would have enjoyed doing it. And as I say, all of this was fun to me and still is. I enjoy everything about this.
Ginny, it's just great to be able to sit here and talk to you and to go back to that time in your life when you really did make history alongside Walt Disney.
Well, I thank you so much for having me. And, Walt was always very young in age, thought young, imagined everything. And I think we were both very much alike in that respect, that we always think young. And I think that's what's helped me to sustain my life and to keep so active with Disney. I really do.
Well, you're a role model for that.
Well, thank you so much, and you're a role model for me for other reasons too.
Thanks, Jim.
I love you very much.
Same here.